This has turned into an absolute nightmare. We've been following the wildlife smuggling trade. And we started off here in Peru, in the Amazon. And kind of the first area we started was actually in the jungle, where we caught a poacher who was poaching monkeys. And from there the trail went to a couple of boats that would buy the monkeys off the poachers, transport it to Requena. From Requena, it generally got sent to the Iquitos, which is, if you want to buy and sell wildlife from the Amazon, Iquitos is the centre of that. There were a few things pointing to the area of Macapa, which is in many ways the gateway of you shipping stuff out of the Amazon and overseas. So Macapa was on our radar. So I went down there for a couple of days to make some contacts, to maybe figure out about hiring boats, see if there was any NGOs that we could work with.
New Zealand activist Pete Bethune, who's been on this mission in the Amazon. He's been fighting for his life this morning after two attackers stabbed him in the street. Today, the attackers stabbed his chest with a large, rusted blade, narrowly missing his lungs. Doctors say he is lucky to be alive.
Now, since people have found out that I got attacked here, there's been quite a few comments about, you know, what are you doing there in the first place? Like, my job has taken me to these dodgy places, and every day in these dodgy places you do get followed, but if you follow some basic rules you'll normally be okay. Now in this case it was a couple of basic rules that weren't followed. The first one is I was alone, and now what happened here, my cameraman, who's American, he was flying with me, and in the last minute they wouldn't let him into Brazil because he didn't have a Brazil visa. Apparently Americans now, you need a visa for Brazil, unlike New Zealanders. So he never made the final flight to Macapa, so that left me alone. So I flew to Macapa, and on my second day there, I went in the morning, had a little bit of spare time, went in the morning to the Macapa prison. Now this is where the 6 murderers of Peter Blake are held, and I was wanting to meet with one of them to go over. There's a conspiracy that Peter Blake was murdered because of his investigation into illegal gold mining. And I wanted to speak with one or more of the prisoners to find out. So I spent probably 2 hours with the guards at the prison, just setting up some meetings to make the meeting of one of the inmates. After that, I took a motor taxi to a town called Santana, which is it's a sketchy little port town. Now Peter Blake, when he was murdered, first he took his boat to Santana and he was anchored up offshore. Port authorities went and saw him and said, "This is a very dangerous place for you to be. We want you to move to Macapa, to the pilots area." So Peter Blake moved down to Macapa. We think it was basically a robbery, but that was the end of Peter Blake, and you know, tragic loss of life of one of the greatest New Zealanders of the 20th century. So anyway, I went to Santana. I was looking to hire a boat, or to see what's the cost involved in hiring a boat, and it was down in the port area. And then I noticed at one stage, I noticed a guy following me and started walking towards me, and he was smiling. But as I sort of looked at him, like, I knew something was up. And he had his hand in his pocket, and he got to within about 2 meters of me. And then I knew there was, in fact I thought it was a gun. He was pulling a gun out of his pocket. He pulls out a knife, and it's got a blade on it about this big. He's kind of lunging at me, and I managed to get hold of his wrist as he's starting to come down. And then we're kind of struggling with this thing, and I'm looking at this big blade right in front of my nose, struggling holding his arm, and then another guy from behind who I hadn't seen, he puts his arm around me, around my neck, and he pushes his hips into my bum. In those first kind of 10 seconds, when the knife went into my ribs, when he fell on the ground, I knew that I was wounded. Like, I thought the knife had gone deep inside me. It turned out all it had done was basically go in and get wedged between 2 ribs in my chest. And when I went to the doctors, they said the ribs were what saved me. It stopped the knife from going right in. So now I'm on the ground with this guy on top of me. And this knife is sort of up around here. So effectively I'm holding this guy up, and I can see him sort of trying to put all his weight down and force the knife into my neck. And so now that this is turned into an absolute nightmare. And I remember thinking, if I lose this wrist, that knife is going to be in my neck, and I'm a goner. I am yelling for help. I'm saying, help me, help me, help me. There's people around, like, I don't know the number, but there must have been a minimum of at least 10 people, maybe 15, who will have seen everything what's happened. I don't know if they were standing there watching, I presume so, but, you know, lots of people could have actually come and helped. No one did a thing. So in the end, like, when I let the guy go, he ran off. After it happened, and the hospital had patched me up, and I'm back in my hotel room, I remember thinking, it's not worth it. You think of your family and stuff. I got a message through from my daughter. She said she loves me heaps. And at the time I just burst into tears. And we've been here for 2 months. It's been a long and grueling 2 months in the Amazon. And you start to get a bit slack. You start to cut corners a bit. And in hindsight, I probably cut 1 or 2 corners too many in my cuppa, and nearly paid for it with my life. I could have very easily been going back to New Zealand in a body bag, as Peter Blake did. And the life of a conservationist, it's become pretty dangerous now. You know, I'm not the first conservationist to be attacked. You look at the number of rangers that get killed each year in South America, in Africa, in Asia. Conservation has become a life-threatening occupation of late. People get killed every year for simply trying to preserve the planet. It's a sad indictment on all of the money that gets made out of illegal logging and illegal gold mining and the wildlife trade. In my case, I think it was a mugging, but I don't know for sure. Don't know for sure.